Well, here we are, the mighty River Trent, and this is part 2 of my 2023 road trip. If you saw part 1, I went to a stunning little lake in Hertfordshire, had a really nice result there, so if you haven't seen that video, make sure you check it out after this one. But this is part 2 of a 3-part road trip, and we are river fishing, so not something you see very often on my channel, but I have done a few trips over the years. I haven't been on a river for at least a year now, so I'm really excited. It's really nice to be down here. But the weather has been pretty atrocious. It started raining on the way up here and it hasn't really stopped, so I've just been getting the rods out in the wet, and it is now getting dark as well. It's not actually that late, it's about 4 o'clock, but because of the weather, don't know how well you can see out there, but yeah, because of the weather, it is really dark, so I won't have much time for filming today, but the plan is try and catch a few fish to show you guys, and then I'll take you through the tactics of how I'm fishing, so you get a few ideas if you're fairly new to fishing, you know, and if not, there'll be lots of nice shots and scenery of where I am, and yeah, hopefully some fish to show you along the way as well. So yeah, a couple of nights here and then on to another lake for part 3, so make sure you check that out as well. It might not be out yet, but it will be soon, so make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that. Well, I didn't expect to be off the mark this quickly. I just caught a massive bream, about £6, and I was redoing that rod, tying up a new rig because it blunted my hook. And the other rod has gone into absolute meltdown, and we've had this stunning barbel. It was £9, 12 ounces, so really good size. I don't do a lot of barbel fishing, so my PB is only just over £10, so this is probably the second biggest barbel that I've ever caught. So I'm really happy with that, guys. Lovely torpedo, fought absolutely like a demon, and the bite was mental, just a 1-toner, and it screamed off and took about 20 yards of line. So yeah, buzzing with that. I'm gonna get this one back after a couple of pictures and get the rods back out because I've got no rods fishing at the moment. Now you might be wondering how I'm catching these barbel, so in a minute I'm just going to quickly run you through the rig and the lead setup, talk to you a little bit about the bait that I'm using, so hopefully you know you get an idea of how to approach the Trent if you ever want to come here yourself. Right, so this is one rod setup that I've got here. I started the bait, so I've got a Pure Bait Concepts Amino Marine hard dumbbell there. And that's actually coated in liquids and powders, which adds attraction and also makes it extra hard. The reason I've used a hard hook bait is because I'm leaving it out all night, you know, and there's small fish in here, and I don't want it just getting pecked away to nothing and ending up with no bait left. The rig itself is just a simple knotless knot tied with a little bit of silicone on the shank so the hair exits where I want it, just before the bend there. And then I've got a little kicker on there which just helps it flip when the barbel swims off with the bait. My hook link is a £10 mono. It's about 3 foot long, I guess. You can't see it all in this shot, but yeah, it goes off over this way and comes back to the anti-tangle sleeve that I've got there. Now you might notice my knot that I've tied, it's actually a loop that goes onto a quick change swivel there, but it's extra long. It's about 6 inches long, and it just gives extra anti-tangle properties when you cast out, so it doesn't wrap around the lead because that bit's a little bit stiffer. And then the anti-tangle sleeve as well just helps with that, as well as keeping that loop onto the quick change swivel. I can just pull that out to show you. So we've got that loop, so simply attach the loop to your quick change swivel. Your anti-tangle sleeve goes over that, keeps it in place. And then I've got one of these heli buffer beads, which is a carp fishing item really, but it just nicely goes over the swivel, so you've got that little section there, so there's no way your hook link can come off. And the knot, which is tied to the swivel from the main line, is also protected by that. And that comes down to a bead, which just protects that. And then I've got a ring swivel there with the ring on the line, so it's nice running rig. I've got a quick change clip there attaching my lead with a bit of sleeve over that as well, so I'll just show you there. That just pulls back, so you can change your lead if you want to, depending on the flow and how far you're casting and that sort of thing. Now I've only got a 2 ounce lead on here, which seems quite light for the Trent, but there's not much flow on at the moment, so you don't need much more than 2 ounces. I'm only casting 40 yards and that's holding the bottom nicely for me. So 2 ounces is fine in this situation, but obviously you can change that to a heavier lead if you need to with that clip there. My main line is a 12-pound mono, and that's a setup on one rod. Now my other rod is exactly the same as that, but I've got a feeder on it, so I'll just quickly show you that one now. Now here's the other rod set up with the feeder. You might notice the hook bait is different. I've got 2 amino marine boilies there, and they've been coated in the liquid food matching the bait for about a year now, which makes them go really hard but also really pungent and smelly. And I've just got a different hook bait really to try and avoid the bream, because a slightly bigger hook bait I think is harder for them to get in their mouths, but a barbel should still be able to eat this. It's the same flavour as I'm using on the other rod, but just a slightly bigger hook bait and a slightly different shape, just to mix it up a bit. Everything else is the same. The kind of running rig setup and the hook link and the rig itself is exactly the same, except for I've got a feeder on there. Now the idea being that I cast this upstream and then my other rod goes downstream of it, and all the smell of that ground bait will sort of trickle down towards the other rig and hopefully attract the barbel, and I should get bites on that rod as well. The feeder I'm actually loading with ground bait in the bottom, then I'm putting a few pellets in the middle and ground bait on the top, so it kind of plugs it in there. When you cast it out, it gets down to the bottom, and then that ground bait starts breaking down, and the pellets will just trickle out with the flow of the river, leaving little patches. And I'll sort of cast it out about 8 to 10 times before dark, just to get a little bit of smell and bait in the area. And then over the other rod, which is probably about 5 or 6 rod lengths downstream of this, I just fired out sort of 15 or so boilies around that, just for a bit of attraction around that one as well. So yeah, just a bit of a double attack really. Ground bait upstream to kind of get the swim kind of nice and smelly, and then a few more solid food particles downstream with the other rod, and hopefully this rod will pick up any sort of fish that are coming through, investigating the smell of the ground bait and the pellets and everything. So that's my setup, guys. I hope that was helpful for you. Sort of early afternoon now, so I'm probably going to have some lunch, leave the rods out for a little bit, you know, up against the bivvy, because there's no point fishing when it's the middle of the daytime. I feel like all the bites are going to come, you know, evening and after dark really. So I'll probably get the rods back out about 5 o'clock, a bit more bait out there, and hopefully tonight we'll catch a real big one. So this is the ground bait that I'm using. It's actually not officially a ground bait. It's the amino marine prep powder from Pure Bait Concepts, which is actually meant for coating your boilies after you've soaked them in liquids, and it leaves a nice crust on the outside. But there's so many goodies in here, and it smells really nice and spicy. It's just the perfect thing for barbel really, and it's nice and stodgy because it kind of goes almost like a a paste when you mix it up. So that plugs the feeder nicely and puts lots of attraction in the water. Right, that's it. We're coming into the evening on the second night on the River Trent, and we've got some serious weather coming tonight. I think about 1 in the morning it's going to really start raining, and it's due to rain all day tomorrow as well, which is going to make it interesting for packing up and moving on to the next venue on this week-long road trip. And I'm not even sure where we're going to go yet, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, 1 night left to catch a real monster barbel on the River Trent. So let's hope it happens, eh? I have been plagued by bream a little bit. Had another one a little while ago and lost one. You just know when you've hooked a bream, don't you? But to make up for it, I've just had this absolutely stunning double figure barbel. He's quite lively because I've just been resting him in the water while I got the camera ready and everything. But that's a good thing, you know, you've got to look after him. But there we go. That's £10, 8 ounces. So a bit bigger than the last one. And yeah, absolutely over the moon with that, because I came here a year ago and I didn't have a single bleep for 2 days. So it was obviously just down to the conditions and not the tactics. So hopefully a few more to come. Well, having not properly slept for the last 4 nights on this road trip, last night I was getting plagued by bream. I think I caught about 4 between 9 and sort of 11 o'clock. I decided to wind in. The weather was pretty atrocious, and it still is now. It's been peeing it down all night, and I didn't fancy getting up all night in the rain to land bream. So yeah, I admit I wound in both my rods and got 7 hours kip, so I'm really happy with that. But there's no more barbel to report, unfortunately. I just couldn't face it really, you know, being up all night in the rain, catching bream after bream. It just wasn't the one really. But I have cast out one of my rods this morning, the one just on the boilie rather than the feeder, because I feel like the ground bait in the feeder might have been bringing the bream in. They've been really active on this session, I think possibly because we're coming into, you know, the autumn and the cooler months now. The bream are sort of feeding up ready for those cold months. And yeah, they've been getting on it. I feel like I'm maybe a couple of weeks too late on this session because the river has been fishing quite well. But yeah, we've had funny conditions, you know, it's been hot leading up to this and then it went cold, and the nights have been quite cold, and I think it might have just switched the fish off a bit, but I did have those 2 really nice barbels, so absolutely buzzing with that. My second biggest barbel, the 10-pounder, and that nice 9-pounder as well, so decent sizes, really happy with that. And perhaps if I'd come on a different week, I might have had a few more, but I think that's going to be the end of this video, guys. I'm heading on to the next venue now. Still not sure where we're going, but I'm just waiting for the rain to stop. I'm going to start packing up and we'll get on the road. So make sure you subscribe for part 3 of the road trip coming up soon, and leave a comment, any of your thoughts on barbel fishing. And if you've been to the River Trent before, let me know how you get on, and I will see you in part 3.